So welcome everyone. This is our sixth seminar of the Winter 2022 One Health Seminar Series. This series is organized by the One Health Institute at the University of Guelph. My name is Sydney. I'm a master's student in the Department of Population Medicine. I'm also one of the students enrolled in the collaborative specialization in One Health. It is my pleasure to be facilitating this seminar for you all today. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that the University of Guelph and many of our homes reside on the ancestral lands of the Attawandaron people and the treaty lands and territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We uphold the significance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant and the continuing relationship with our Indigenous neighbors. We also appreciate that these acknowledgements are merely a starting point, and as settlers on this land, we must take real and genuine action to support Indigenous communities and advocate for reconciliation, both as individuals and from our government. We recognize that this gathering place and all the places we join from today is the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and by acknowledging them, it reminds us of our relationships to this land where we explore, share, discuss, and learn about our responsibility for human, animal, plant, and ecosystem health. It is also important to remember the role that Indigenous peoples and their knowledge play in our understanding and approaches to One Health. Before I introduce our speaker today, I do just have to inform everyone that we are recording this seminar. The recording will be posted to the One Health YouTube channel, and a link will be shared on the One Health Institute page. This recording may be used by the Institute to promote and showcase One Health work being done on our campus. And if you have any questions or concerns regarding the recording of the seminar or One Health in general, you can contact onehealth@uoguelph.ca. As per usual, at the end of seminar, there will be time for questions and discussion. You're welcome to ask your question by using the raised hand function and I will call on you, or you can post your question to the chat and I can read it out loud. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker for today. Dr. Choi is a professor in the Department of Hospitality, Food, and Tourism Management in the Gordon S. Lang School of Business and Economics at the University of Guelph. Dr. Choi has studied across the world and has a particular interest in sustainable tourism and conscious consumption. Today, Dr. Choi will be presenting about the darker side of tourism and how this can be viewed through a One Health lens. I'm really excited for this presentation today. From my limited knowledge of this subject, I don't believe it's usually situated in a One Health lens, so I think this is going to lend a very unique perspective. And with that, it's over to you, Dr. Choi.
Thank you, Sydney. I'll share. So can you see it? See the slide?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, thank you. Well, yeah, we have away from traveling for the last 2 years. Yes, I know that some of you travel to your friend's place or family and friends somewhere in Canada. Some took the international travel. However, mostly we are locked down, and so it's very cautious traveling to other countries. When we talk to you about traveling, we always coming up with something positive side of the tourism. It's this kind of, it's traveling to this ocean beach area and the historical side of the England and then London. This is kind of what we just imagine about. However, behind the scene, there's a lot of things we didn't talk too much about it, which I just called an inconvenience truth. I'll just briefly talk about the past side of the tourism and why I just brought this topic to this seminar series and what are the hidden costs we didn't really consider much so far. Even though it's not new, it has known a lot for a long time to us. And how do we change this? And what would be the challenges? And then I'll make some concluding remarks.
Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Choi, so that we can see your presentation, but it's in the presenter view. Would you mind switching that?
Sure, okay. Let's see. Does it work now?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, then I just need to change my microphone. Just give me a second. Okay. The revenue from digital spending have grown faster than the world economy.
In 2018, the total international tourist export reached $1.7 trillion, which is 4+% increase from previous year. And international arrival has over 1.7 billion tourists, which is 5%, 5+% increase from previous year. Except, as you can see from your graph, and except 2009, where we are experiencing huge economic downturn originated from the US, mostly tourism business experienced a very high growth rate. Tourism is accounted for 10% of global economy in 2018. And as you can see, before we're experiencing COVID-19, it is projected to grow by nearly 4% annually until 2030. So when we talk about tourism, and there will be more opportunity to travel to other countries and within the country. But one thing stopped us, which is COVID-19. All of a sudden, tourism is just stopped. As you can see here, during the 3-year period from 2017 and 19, the graph shapes are similar to each other. During the winter months, the relatively low number of tourists and the demand is picked during the summer months. But pandemic changed the shape. International tourist arrival decreased by 50–60% in the first 3 months of the year, with the number in May down by 98%. The inbound tourism industry is gone. The pandemic has kept tourists away. As for the people depending on tourism, they suffer and look for a new way of making a living. However, there is a positive side of things. When this gave a nature break, what happened? The Venice is the clearest it has been in 60 years. And dolphins have been spotted down in southern Italy. Animals in urban areas are exploring emptied streets and waterways and delighting human inhabitants along the way. And there's another phenomenon we have experienced for the last decade or two, which is we call climate change. You remember the last year, the huge flooding in Europe, and lack of snow in the ski resort is not new anymore. In Southern Ontario, in December, early December, ski season is started. However, for the last 4 years, we're having a rainy Christmas. Again, last year, we have experienced wildfire around the globe. Couple of months in Australia, in west side of Canada, west of US, Greece, and Turkey. In 10 years ago, when we talk about climate change, wow, this is very unexpected. It's unusual. It's very abnormal. But today, we call this as new normal. These are the couple of things impacting the tourism and tourism industry. The researcher and practitioner and other stakeholders have talked about major problem root of the tourism, but it had not been fully discussed. Over-tourism. This over-tourism debate has not helped to fix the problem. However, since over-tourism became a word of 2018 in Oxford Dictionary, raised the issue that we need to better destination management. The rapid growth of tourism in the 21st century is leading the damage in destination across the world that is largely unreported and frequently not perceived by tourists, putting destination at risk without effective response. When we talk about tourism and tourism as a business, One of the most known the tool used by many others, the economic impact study. What economic impact study will bring to us is total amount of dollar generated by tourists, number of jobs created, and household income increased, and new fresh dollar injected into our economy. But where is the negative side of the tourism? Why we keep focusing on positive side of tourism development? When we manufacturing a product, we do the cost benefit analysis. When we calculate the profit or loss, we always the minus cost from the revenue. But why tourism is not the one utilizing such a simple equation when they assess the impact? There is a lot of hidden cost. Simply say crowdedness, traffic jams, and depletion of biodiversity or cultural asset. These costs lower the economic benefit of tourism. So many of government are not recognized this, and they don't want to rebuild that. So although the growth of the industry has been steady for a decade, policy for addressing a significant economic, social, and environmental impact continue to be behind. Of course, while the new tourism dollar has a positive impact, but invisible burden of tourism on local economies appear to be steadily weakening the underdeveloped infrastructure. Cost of managing and developing sustainable infrastructure will weigh heavily on destination, including natural and cultural assets and resources. To date, the most dialogue on these issues failed to properly address the real problem for policy and government reform, which is truly necessary to address this inconvenience truth. So when we talk about tourism, its benefit, and we want to start this types of conversation, then we have to accept that we have failed to properly account for the full risk and cost of tourism growth. High positive impact were found in human capital, livelihood, profit, payroll, and taxes. But highest negative impact were environmental impact, water pollution, water use, land use, waste, air emission, greenhouse gas emission, and social impact, including public infrastructure and services and cultural heritage. The investor and private sector takes a benefit and destination, and the resident pay for the cost. So benefits are taken by the private sector and government, but all the costs are paid by resident and local communities. Without more holistic accounting recognized by government and the business, tourism resources and destination will be declined. Your dream destination will be gone and disappeared. Even there is the popular term last chance tourism, which means such a destination will be gone in 10 to certain decade. So you must travel now. Antarctica is one of them, many of the Pacific Islands on the list. And also, extremely rapid growth of the tourism in Southeast Asian region is driving unsustainable growth, which is making regular news, for instance, with island closure in Thailand and the Philippines before the COVID-19. And while government are quickly posting notice of resolving the problem, let there be little doubt there are heavy impact when destination expand at the lightning speed. Such impact cannot be erased easily and quickly. And when the government and policymaker and marketer and business look at this number, 29.1% growth from the previous year in Vietnam, 11% tourist increase from the previous in Philippines. Wow, sounds great. We make money. Where this money goes? Why this money only benefiting those, the business and government, not the resident or nature or culture asset or communities? Of course, tourism is an effective tool for economic development, an easy tool for economic development. You don't need extra money, you don't need extra facility, as long as you have tell this your target audience, we are a tourism destination. Then they'll find a way to get there and they will spend money at destination. So this is maybe one of the easiest business you can start that brings a revenue, tax generation, investment attraction, job creation. It is very unknown that how such taxes are all located. So we made money, but money taken by someone else. What we call them the business and central government. Therefore, it is vital to understand the cost and benefit per tourist and marginal cost as visitor number grow. The cost of a growing number of visitor and tourism worker in each destination, the infrastructure required to transport, feed, house, energy and water and wastewater. The tourism management seems to be entirely focusing on promoting business, bringing more people, let them spend more money, is tied to commercial and tax interest that focuses less on how to manage the destination and more on how to develop the destination for commercial interest. Government ministry lack the full set of the professional tools they need to make use of the measure that can equalize the playing field and to protect the vital resources and human health and well-being. Here's some example of unaccounted cost. Energy greenhouse gases emission. At the local level, they even know how much greenhouse gas emitted and how these affect their future. And many of the destinations do not have a collection systems, no sewage system. So this is dumped and the polluted this natural area not yet developed. Cancun provided a case in point. The famous beach development offered a substantial economic gain after an initial investment. One of the favorite destinations for Canadians during winter. But this gain was followed by rapid increasing deficit as social and infrastructure service costs rose over time. Living area improvement of new labors, only 30% of wastewater are properly treated. Illegal garbage dump for 2 decades until early 2000s. 80% of tourism taxes goes back to the Canadian government, never back to the destination. To avoid this problem, destinations should account for the real operational cost. We need to develop the approach that enables the local destination to measure and manage the true cost of operations. 2019, tourism contributed about 11% of global greenhouse gas emissions. The tourism sector is highly vulnerable to climate change and at the same time contribute to the emission of the greenhouse gases. Neither responsible travel behavior nor technological improvement have been able to offset the increase of tourism carbon footprint. For example, hotels in the domestic republic contribute to the nearly 50% of greenhouse gas emission among the commercial building in the country. The conversion to renewable require the financing and the bundling of energy need to create a scale. Hotels in Dominican Republic could greatly benefit from this process, but few in from the responses from the hotel community on joining the effect to attract the capital and financing to create a lower carbon economy. 3 years back, European Union started to collect a carbon tax from air passenger from all of the other countries. The U.S. carrier asked to delay this air carbon tax collection. However, they started collecting carbon tax from passenger, then putting them into their pocket. That's what the private sector does. Whenever you travel to the Niagara Falls, you have to look at the hotel bills. This hotel bill contains some of the unknown tax. One is the destination management fees, which is voluntary tax. If you're not comfortable, you don't need to pay, but they never tell the truth. There is an eco tax, which is also voluntary tax. But unless you actually recognize why I'm paying this, you have to pay this $2-3 of eco tax and that's the minimum fee. But most of those money goes to their pocket, not to the destination, not to protect the natural area. Tourists use water liberally during their travel. You have to recall your memory when you're traveling to this hot and beach area. You take shower more often, use pools, and frequent beautiful garden, which are irrigated to retain a perfect image of guest. Hotels located in destinations around the world have increasing water risk factors, in part due to the water scarcity, and in part due to high consumption of water per tourist. Indonesia, India, Thailand, China, UAE have the highest risk of water shortage due to the tourism development. When you enjoy this time to take shower and swim in a swimming pool, the residents don't have enough water to drink. According to the UN documentations, only 36% of local income countries have collection. In Haiti, for example, the government intends to double the hotel room number by 2030. But there is no published government plan to expand the solid waste management system consistent with such a tourism growth. So they want to grow tourism, but not the system. What's going to happen in Haiti? Some part of the island will be this huge dump sited. In the Maldives, this is one of the islands located in Maldives. When you imagine the Maldives is tropical island and with its beautiful beaches and small island, amazing accommodation, and you can swim around. But this is one of the most known island in Maldives, which we call the trace island, collecting all the trace waste from the resort. In the Maldives, it has been estimated that 95% of generated solid waste was caused by the resort the guest. This is what the tourists produced in Maldives. Beside the amazing experience of your visit to Maldives, the solid waste is accumulated over time. And also just 8% of population in low-income economy have waste water service. Even in upper middle income country, 38% of population have access. The only region of the world with widespread wastewater treatment service for the population, above 70% of the developed world economy. Social natural capital are fundamental to health of a destination is resident. Destination need an operational approach to managing all the capital count, which would allow the decision maker to target specific key performance indicator and prevent natural culture capital from decaying to the point that vital ecosystem or social culture service are threatened. The protected area generated roughly $600 billion in direct tourism revenue from the approximately 8 billion visits annually. but only $10 billion is spent to maintain the parks and protect the area around the world, according to the best estimate to date. Preserving biodiversity and natural area to meet the UN target will cost $76 billion annually, a goal that far exceeds tourism need. While the industry and government jointly celebrate annual growth, there is a little consistent review of specific risk factor that will cause potential destination decline. Climate change will be the threat for the rest of our life. The growth of a global middle class driving growth at the unsustainable level. A lot of people don't understand, growth of global middle class, what does this mean? Especially those living in the Western world do not estimate this potential. Since 1950, 60 years of tourism has been grown from the Western world, Western Europe, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, which account for just over 600 million population. Now we have emerging middle-class economy, China, India, Indonesia, Vietnam, accounting for 3.1 billion population, 5 times bigger. They will come at once. So this growth will be twice or 5 times or 10 times more threatening our destination than last 60 years of impact. And more destinations heavily depend on tourism. However, the ability of local government to manage the growth is very low. There's some risk, including climate change, depletion of natural and social cultural capital, and depletion of local ownership of land, ability of managing land resources through the government oversight, lack of human capital, improper use of monitoring system in place to manage the tourism growth risk, availability of financial capital and investment system in place to manage tourism growth. Tourism must be analyzed according to the risk category specific to its own industry, as other industries have already achieved. For instance, ESG, which stands for environmental, social, and governance, because the investors are increasingly applying this non-finance factor as part of their analysis process to identify the material risk and growth opportunity. This is not only way we can actually apply to, but this is one of the tools used by the other industry. Big data management, master planning, and climate change adaptation and mitigation strategy with this international support to the local destination is obviously held. In order for government to do their job, they will need to make a serious effort and investment to preserve tourism assets. Having specialized in marketing for over 50 years, National Tourism Administration staff lack the knowledge and training and experience to manage the invisible burden on tourism destination, cannot simply convert their staff to the new roles. We need to build seriously well-built destination management capacities. DMO used to call that destination marketing organization, but M is not marketing anymore. M is represent management. We need to know how to balance the cost and the benefit, not just seeking for benefit. We need a serious collaboration among the key stakeholders, government, university expert, and private sectors. One of the primary challenges for tourism decision maker is the inaccurate and misleading nature of data they use to project and discuss the success. Economic impact analysis does not account for the costs associated with invisible burden. When we assess the economic impact, we mainly focusing on positive economic impact and also international visitors, because what we argue that they will bring the new fresh dollar into economy. So we care more about international tourists over domestic. However, in many cases, on average, there's 4 times more domestic tourists that are traveling than the international tourists within a country. In 2019, 32 million international tourists are visiting China versus 6.1 billion Chinese travel domestically. Even for Venice, 5.5 million international tourists visiting Venice in 2019, while 15.5 million domestic tourists visiting Venice, more domestic visiting. But when we assess the impact, they are not there. So we only calculate impact based on international visit, not the domestic visit. So future vegetation projection and impact should be based on actual vegetation, not the one they was looking for. We have to look at the whole, not the part. We're collecting tax to serve our community and residents better. But so far in tourism, tax collected from tourism development mostly goes to the other area rather than destination. So existing approach of the industry and government has not been proven to be adequate for addressing the challenge of tourism growing invisible burden, requiring a re-evaluation of how taxes are being allocated. The efficiency of current allocation of tourism taxes must be undergo full policy review. If necessary, we need additional financing approach. Hotel tax, arrival and departure tax entrance fee may not be enough to protect and manage the cost at the destination level. Maybe they need to collect additional tax. Just for example, New Zealand started collecting equal tax from a tourist. Maybe we need to charge additional, levy the additional fund from the global digital travel supply chain. They don't pay any tax because their headquarters is not located in destination country, but which is not fair. They use the commons. However, they don't share the cost, which doesn't make any sense. Invisible burden is undermining the success of tourism economy, which is causing the frequent disturbance in many destinations in the form of local protest and island closing and failing infrastructure. But the major destination or majority of destinations are unprepared and lack the budget and expertise to both manage the escalating demand and oversee the proper evaluation of tourism impact on their local community. The cost of managing tourism assets are not being accounted both at the international and destination level. Yes, European cities have set out the new planning system to finance infrastructure and protect the historic asset and local well-being. Even in Canada, terminology called ecotourism has been disappeared in 10 years ago. We now use a soft adventure tourism. So there's no such ecotourism protection and management plan. What about developing country or emerging economy? They don't know even how they actually estimating possible instant impact or long-term impact. Cost should be a part of equation when calculating economy impact. That's very easy and simple, but we always ignoring the simple equation when we assessing the economic impact of tourism. I just want to conclude my presentation by saying this. Even though you are COVID infected, you may not know in day one because there's no symptom. Destination need to get vaccinated to fight back with the cost of tourism. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Choi, for that presentation.